Sure. But I think I maybe have more words than last time, or hopefully more descriptive words or more embodied words.
Um, I was just thinking if I could shut the window, but it's already shut. It's the room I'm in is near a big street.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Okay. Great. um, I guess same thing. Kind of just going. Maybe like first just a verbal narrative, and then diving in.
So it was so a moment in the class, a memorable moment. Um, so I'm going to talk about the exercise, sort of the like trauma, invoking your like finding the place of ease and the way you carry yourself and your body to be the best you can feel, in that time to the hard, the bringing in the hard thing and then coming back to the place of ease. And so for the place of ease thing, for me, I guess it was very much chest centric, right? Like we're moving about the room, about like I had an upright. I would hold myself upright, like straight spine as much as possible, and like head up, shoulders like out and broad, like not a protective mode, very much like a chest open, like strong but vulnerable position. And for extra, like holding chest and like diaphragm, kind of like holding in what I refer to as the baby place, right here, because I feel like we're held here as infants and not so much after, other than like intimately, lying in bed with someone with a hand on your chest or something, or with Aaron Bell outside the St. Rock Tavern.
I love you.
Which feels like parental and comforting, but not in a creepy way. So those were like always for me, like returning to like chest strength and openness. And then like I guess inviting in the like hard place, felt like again a sense of dread, feeling more aware of the body being bounded. I have a hard time with words for the place of ill ease. Like definitely like a slightly faster heart, perhaps more aware of body temperature. I feel like the place of unease is kind of more obsessive. So there's more awareness of things in that moment that I might not have been paying attention to outside of it, even though I don't know how much has actually changed.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm noticing it more. And I don't know, like the body wants to curl and wants to self-protect, but also wants to expel, right? And in like the movements to release the thing, were like I always felt really compelled to like keel over, to like forcefully like bend and with forceful breath to let the thing out, and like did shake out limbs, but it was predominantly chest and breath and like dumping, like moving towards the ground and dumping and expelling breath. I guess I could also say that like the feeling of unease would also be a crawling in the skin, like a discomfort in the skin, and definitely aversion. And so yeah, doing the dumping, bending over thing, and then to bring back the place of ease, once again, it was about conscious breathing, holding the spine upright and shoulders open. And felt really transformative to me to learn in that class that, like, by making subtle bodily shifts that you could influence your emotions, because I didn't know that before that. So yeah, that's the short version.
Okay, so there's kind of two different thoughts that I have, and one is like a question of, what's the like frame of the moment for you, and then the other thought is towards where I'm particularly interested in how less inhibited movement is different than inhibited movement mindfulness. And so, I mean, I think of it again because what you were saying is so much touches on what I'm interested in.
I don't think I understand the first question about framing the moment.
Yeah, I guess it's like as I listened to your narrative, then I was a little lost of like, oh, how much time was that? Was that like 5 minutes, or was that?
I'd say it was probably 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah.
And so then I'm wondering, because of maybe, I don't know. Yeah, because of like for example, last time we spent like an hour on what was maybe like 45 seconds or like maybe a minute. I don't know, because it was meditative time and like really lost of time. But that it was a very quick transition of like the moment right before you didn't feel you had a body, and then coming back to the body, and then that was a really quick
So you'd like to select a moment from there to...
It's really a question. Yeah, it's I don't know that that's the best way to go, because I feel like the transition is the really interesting thing. And so then like my sort of like, how to approach this, is that too much time for us to try? But let's just try it and then see what happens.
Okay.
Because yeah, and maybe focusing on the transition.
Okay. The transition in or out?
Both.
Both, okay.
Yeah. From a place of ease, and then we'll see how far we get, and yeah.
That could be, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and maybe we make a part 2 or something if like that doesn't sound horrible to you. You're so fun to play with. Okay, so I guess kind of like the last time, going back into that dropping in your body memory of the moment right before you transitioned to sensing the dis-ease. So like going back to describe, I guess, your body, and the thing that I can think to add for kind of directing it is as much as you're able to leave out probablys.
Probablys, okay.
Yeah, just going with what you literally remember. So it's like a place where, yeah, like you are there in that past moment, and you're only speaking from what is in that past moment.
Okay. So before the moment of inviting in ill ease, I was walking around the room, I think with walking around the room with eyes opened and with eyes closed, and focusing on spine, being upright, on broad shoulders, on strength, on chest openness, on like breath, on I can feel hands, just on being like a strong embodied, like looking up body.
How, when you say you can feel hands, what, your own hands, or?
Yeah, I can feel like I can feel having arms and having hands, in the awareness of, in walking around.
Can you feel? Can you feel your chest?
Yeah.
And
I
then
can feel chest. I can feel breath. Yeah, I feel quite embodied at that moment, and like like relatively calm. And
can you describe anything about any of those places? Like any amount of quality that could be super abstract. They could be made up words.
I feel like smooth pattern. Like, I feel safe.
Does the safe have a quality? Like, what does it feel like to feel safe?
To feel safe I feel safe when I feel held, and like having in that place, like holding self. And actually, it was holding chest, but also sometimes holding lower back too. So like a dual prop. It wasn't just front; it was back also. That my own hands felt sufficient in that moment, which isn't always the case. You know. So I guess that could be described as like a trusting, firm holding, like a pressure was part of that feeling of safety. And I guess there's heat there too. And it's soft.
Cool. And then yeah, what happened next?
Inviting dis-ease looked like visualizing an unpleasant situation, or visualizing something that I feel really averse to, or have felt averse to, or felt triggered by. So it was visual, imagining, I guess.
And I don't know if you remember this or not, but when you just said that, imagining, you had your hand kind of go over your eye and forehead. Was there any kind of sensation in that area? Is that where like you felt the imagining?
Yeah, that's where I guess like I feel like it lives in the head and eyes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then is there any, like, if you remember any descriptor of just the piece of the imagining itself? Because I know it was you said an ill-ease memory, but like the sensation of maybe the coming thought, the if there was anything there.
Yeah, even like doing it now, right? There's like a feeling, I don't know what words, in the guts, in the belly, like low, and in the chest.
Can you tell, do they come after the forehead eye area? Or at the same time, or before?
Not before, for sure. Can't say if it's at the same time or after.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. It feels like it translates into I'm trying to find words. Like it feels like crawly. It feels like almost itchy on the inside, like just just uncomfortable. More sweaty, like anxious.
Did it have the tempo of how you just moved your fingers?
It doesn't. I don't know if it's doing this. I can say that it doesn't feel smooth.
Okay, cool.
It feels like holy or jagged, or it feels irritating. And yeah, again, like more aware of boundaries. Inward turning, I guess. Yeah.
When you say more aware of boundaries, I don't quite understand what you mean.
I think I mean that in these moments, like, I feel like I can act my skin. Like
Wait.
I feel.
Oh, wait, hold on one second. It said, I heard that in these moments, and then the phone cut off.
In these moments, like I perceive my skin. Like I'm aware. I'm more aware of like the container. I'm more aware of the container. Yeah.
And then when you feel, like when you're more aware of your skin, is it, do you remember how far that awareness encompassed? Does that make sense?
Like, is it the whole body, or is it?
Yeah.
Definitely like torso, arms, I'd say into thighs. Less focus on feet. But core, thighs, yes.
It could, and then skin in the face, head too, or no?
Awareness that there is a head, but not distinct face. Like just more like a head, more like mind head awareness and core.
So the container really was around the core and thighs and arms. The container feeling. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so then just to recap what I understand so far is that there was you were in the position with your chest open and feeling smooth, warm pressure on the chest and lower back. And then when the thought imagination came of a prior difficult moment that you experienced, that difficult moment either first or at the same time in your forehead eye area, and then a irritating and many other adjectives you used sensation in the chest and the lower belly, and then or at the same time feeling your skin as a container in the torso, arms, and thigh.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened from there?
And then I think then you invited us to try to move it out to, like.
I'm just wondering. I'm like, God, sorry. Because I remember this is tangential. I remember a conversation with you after one of the classes, and you put it really well of not trying to get rid of it, but just trying to maybe be with it in less discomfort. And or like how to be with it in this contact way we were talking about. And then I'm like, oh God, shit, did it? I think I'm just like, I'm sorry. My memory is just like, I'm sorry I told you to get rid of it. I don't know that you should have.
Well, I think that trying to get rid of it, like, it's an exercise, but it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, I still feel like even trying to get rid of it or move it or shift it, it doesn't actually go.
Yeah.
You know, there might be a little bit of relief, you know, in, like, breathing deep and, like, doing something with the body, right? And attempting to shift the thing, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And that the, like, learning moment to me was being able to return to the place of ease with knowing that it's still there. Mm-hmm. The shit's still there, but you can still be okay with the shit.
Okay, so, sorry I taught a class in a way that I think it was not the best. When you were instructed to release this, and so, like, going back to that moment, since my tangent was tangential.
Yeah, I guess, like, that instruction wasn't something that I believed I could do. Mm-hmm. But I tried, you know? And so...
Oh, that moment right there. Or if that was a moment, did you have the thought, I don't believe I can do this, at that time?
Yeah.
And then do you have any... Just that thought, do you have any memory of the sensation of that thought at that time?
Yeah, that sensation felt like a pause. You know, it felt like there wasn't it wasn't possible to begin to, like, move with gusto. Like, it had to be a really intentional like attempt to do something, because the body was like in this place of, like, that I associate, like, a loose sensation in like in chest and arms of not knowing what to do, not feeling like anything is going to actually like change it.
Uh-huh.
Like a disbelief in the chest and arms.
And did the disbelief have a quality? Like that in the chest and the arms of like the disbelief sort of being in that area, and then is there anything that you remember more in the way of description about that? And if not, it's fine. Just
It feels amorphous.
cool.
It feels like doesn't feel like a place of energy.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a place of halt.
Mm-hmm.
That would halt the body from doing the next thing without the action, without an I'd say forceful but not erratic, without like the application of an intention. Like it's an intention halting place because of disbelief.
And do you remember if the disbelieving thought happened before or after the sensation in the chest and arms?
I feel like they're the same.
Same moment, kind of in
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that it's a feeling of disbelief.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then of kind of feeling like sheepish, like when you have to get up in front of the class and like do something creatively improvised.
Uh-huh.
But this time it's just with yourself, but like feeling that place of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know why I'm doing this.
Uh-huh.
But then making yourself do a thing.
I don't know if so I'm gonna ask this question in sort of more words, but I'm like still going for the sensational relationship. This quality of halting and not knowing, in my own experience, there's a lot of different qualities of not knowing and halting, and some have words like calm, a calm not knowing, and some have, I would use words like petrified, and each of those words have different qualities to me. And I wonder if there's any qualities in the kind of halting that you experienced. Not that you need words for them, like the words I just used, but more going for the sensations that might be associated with words.
Okay. Whoa, New York. Hesitant? It wasn't fear, it wasn't frozen, and it wasn't, like to use your words, it wasn't frozen, it was hesitant. It was, there was still, it was a halt, but it wasn't totally calm, and that it felt like there was still an impetus, there was still like an energy or a push to move behind it. Like it wasn't a place of calm stagnancy, and that it was a halt, but you could feel that there was still this push for the body to move behind it, even though it wasn't ready.
And then could you... So, was the not ready area the chest and the arms area? Is that... Or... I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, good question.
But it doesn't need to... I mean, your description is great.
I don't know that I can... Like, the chest and the arms I can conjure. They're the places I associate most with it, but I don't know exactly where the hesitation, like the hesitation is in my body, but I don't know if it's only in the chest and arms.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
the pushing from behind it did.
Is also in the body.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know exactly where.
Cool. Okay. And then what happened?
And then so that was a moment of some length. I don't know how long. And then like I pushed myself to try some things, to like shake out arms, to breathe deep, to forcefully exhale. To like that's when I began to keel over, to drop from the waist with forceful exhalation and stuff, and that felt like a move that did feel like relieving somehow. But it was just trying out things that moving in some way, not necessarily like super mentally directed, just like doing the things that felt like they were coming. But that to begin required a push. Yeah.
And then the beginning push, that so you were experiencing a push from behind that was in the body but without a location particularly remembered, and then you pushed yourself to try something. And then you pushed yourself to try something come from a different area?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you remember if when you say like the initial push was forceful and then not, and then after that it wasn't forceful, like it just did its thing? Am I understanding you right? Was it a thought, like you directed yourself cognizantly, or something different in terms of when you say that you forced yourself?
I think it was thought directed initially, and I guess I'd clarify that like it got easier, like as you start to move. Mm-hmm. It felt easier to keep moving, but it was, I guess to say that it just did itself isn't really true, because there was still some effort, but it wasn't as like to begin felt harder than to continue. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. Like there was, like, to break the hesitation was the hardest thing, but then there was still a combination of like of mental deciding, right, and then but also with more free movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you hang on one second? I'm sorry, I have to get my plug for my phone. It's about to die. Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Phone's plugged in with energy. The recorder's recording again.
Okay.
Okay. I'm really sorry. Because I know, I mean, it's a lot of energy to go in and out.
It's okay.
Okay, so talking through from the time of having the ambiguous feeling in your chest and arms in relation to not knowing what's feeling you couldn't do the thing requested, and then a push coming from in the body but an unknown location behind that, and then
or under it, or just like it was a feeling of some like pressure or push somewhere. Yeah.
And then the from a different place, direction to yourself, to force yourself to move. And then am I correct in remembering that that direction didn't have a physical location memory or sensation memory?
Yeah, it feels like mind.
Okay.
You know, it feels like intention. You know, it but I can't say that it was like in the head. You know, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's really great to know. And then from that place without remembered location of intention, do you remember like the next moment?
The movement part in memory, like I can remember some moments in it, but it feels like a memory of just lots of movement, like energy and trying out different things. But like the awareness was no longer just like highly concentratedly inward. It was kind of like it was less, there was less pointed focus, and it was, I guess, more scattered outwards, and like with just movement coming, like I think the movement created some space between the experience of the hard thing, between the experience of the hard thing and awareness of it, in that like there was just a bunch of other things then happening with movement.
And the hard thing, what are you referring to? The itchy. Okay.
Yeah. The itchy, as well as the visualizing of it. Like with the movement, then I perceive like the moving the thing out to be like a shifting of attention into other things, right? And so you're not focused, you kind of lose some of the intensity of the thing dissipates because you're no longer like concentrating on it as much.
Yeah.
You're doing something else, so you're kind of, I would say, like it feels almost like distracting, you know? It's like some like, oh, there's other things to be done, you know? And so you're doing them, and you're feeling the thing a little bit less. And there's a relief in that.
Do you remember feeling the relief at that moment?
I remember feeling the relief in keeling over and breathing forcefully.
And then can you describe that?
Relief would be noticing that the uncomfortable feeling is not there for a moment, or feeling some distance between the experience, the uncomfortable feeling, and where you are at right now.
Okay.
Like instead of it being like right here, it's like it's right there.
And
right?
do you feel that distance, like in relation to, yeah, like, how do you describe that distance?
Um, it feels like a a spaciousness I that I can kind of like see in my mind's eye as a space, but that isn't anywhere really.
Uh-huh. Um, so to hold respect for it not being anywhere, and then to ask, um, because you talked about having a sense of your your boundaries earlier, like, was it close to the to your physical perception of yourself, or like, I wonder more like space and relation versus not how much space, but like space in relation to the wall in the room, or space in relation to your own skin, or
I guess I guess like when I feel the space, I don't I don't perceive the bounded body,
uh-huh.
but there is an awareness of something, right? There is an awareness of, I guess, of like a self of some kind, and the thing that to which I am reacting or have been reacting is like some space that is a physical mental space
Mm-hmm.
away.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
It's
Okay.
like it's not right here.
Okay.
And there's like some calm in being like, oh, like that thing is still, that thing is there, and I'm here,
And then
and
do
I'm
you,
being triggered by it right now. There's like a relief in that. Yeah.
the relief and the calm experienced, um, as a cause of that space, or in relation to that space, um, does that do you have memory of how that sensation manifested?
Mm, yeah, it manifests as like a calm stillness.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
um,
That the body might be doing other things, but it's a momentary awareness of a calm stillness and a distance and
uh-huh.
a space.
And do you remember if it had any of the, mm, for example, when you were calm before you entered the space of ill
Mm-hmm.
feeling, did it have a similar did it have similar qualities, or was it a different kind of calm
It,
stillness?
yeah, I'd say it felt similar, except the difference being that the calm stillness of the beginning was highly embodied.
Uh-huh.
There was very much awareness of a chest and like a diaphragm, and of like the physical self to actually like hold,
Mm-hmm.
and the spaciousness, the other one, was less distinctly tethered to awareness of a body.
Okay, great. um, and then, um, from another, sort of going back to this thing that you were talking about, and I think that I'm going to paraphrase it. Well, it's a paraphrase, so I don't remember your exact words. um, but in relation to kind of trying to pull out a little bit more information about the experience of the intention without physical location of intention to move, and the movement that was happening. Um, can you describe anything about that?
It feels like a low level stress, to this like stress, this feeling like the body should be doing something. um I'd say it's like a generalized feeling of stress that that like with the application of like a decision, then like my mind told my, decided that I would like shake out my arms, in response to this feeling of stress. There was like a decision made by the mind to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is this that kind of overall feeling of stress, is that related to the pushing that you had mentioned?
Yeah, I'd say that they're the same.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Um.
This kind of underlying, everywhere, motivating, pushing, stress feeling.
Uh-huh. And then, so if I have this right, then you had this intention from your mind, this directive, but you didn't feel it in your brain. You didn't feel it in your head. Sorry, you said, I think. And the pushing stress was overall maybe from behind or under, perhaps. No?
No, I think like it's there at the same. It feels like, I guess it feels more temporal than like under or behind. It's like what's coming next.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Um.
That,
This.
that it's not being manifested yet. Like the action that's coming isn't there yet, but you can feel it there, kind of in waiting temporarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting. I mean, right, because it, I have, memories of it, maybe something similar, but like, if you can feel it, coming, um, where do you feel it? How do you know? Like, how? Uh,
I don't know.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
from
yeah.
from whence it comes.
Like in your memory, of like, because it's like when you talk about the stress and the pushing, the overall, that it, which makes logical sense, right? That you could sense that more and you have more memory of that sensation versus the thing that doesn't feel like it's quite there yet. But like, how do you feel that it's on the horizon?
Right.
Like, do you have any memory of that sensation, of a horizontal sensation?
Well, I guess like it is there, right? It's there at the same time. It's horizontal in the sense that
When you say
the
that, do you
body-
mean that logically, or do you mean that like in memory?
well, like I guess it's both,
Mhm.
right? Because like the stress or the like the feeling of the stress, like this, it's there. I guess it's horizontal in the sense that what you know it's telling you to do isn't yet happening, right? But it's the feeling in that place of hesitation. The stress is there. It's just not directing you in the way that, like, cognitively you understand that what the purpose of that stress is.
Mm-hmm.
The stress isn't just for its own sake. It is like trying to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And then the sensation that you were describing that was ambiguous in the chest and arms, do I understand right? Did that dissipate from a location? Was it there and then it didn't have a location?
Yeah, I guess. Like as like the exercise kind of progressed, there was less focus on particular body parts.
Uh-huh.
Like it became more energetic and movement, and not a like one pointed, or like I wasn't holding my chest and my, in the way that I was initially. It was just like it was more diffuse and less focused. Yeah.
And that shift, you don't remember that precise shift?
I don't remember the precise shift.
Okay.
No.
And then, so from shaking your arms, so like to back up a tiny bit in the narrative, so there was the mind intention to do something that was like more of a like direct verbal self-telling.
Yeah, not necessarily verbal, but like mental.
Yeah, okay, but there weren't words formed.
There were not words. No.
Cool. Okay, so a not worded directive to do something, and the shaking the arms was that how did it go from do something without words to arm shaking?
It feels the same as that moment that you're standing on a rock in front of a stream, right? And it's a little bit scary, and there's this impetus. You generate an impetus to jump, and it is not, there isn't like full trust in the thing. Like it just, you just manage to like, there's like, you push yourself, there's an energetic surge, and you do a thing.
And so then it just happened that the arms were the thing.
Yeah, the arms were the thing. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then like forceful breathing and hunching over was the thing, and I'm sure other things. I can't fully remember all the things. But
Yeah.
Just after that initial, like the hardest thing is the first movement, and then I think because there's less fear too after the first movement. You could keep trying a thing.
Mm-hmm. And was as you moved from shaking the arms to the did you say hunching over?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember if the stress was still present, the pushing?
No, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. And then Also in the forceful breathing. Same question, I guess.
Like there was, I guess, there was still intention, but it was less stressful.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Like it was less hard to do it once some movement had happened. But it was still intentionally directed. But with more, I don't know, like it was intentional, but it was also more free. Like it feels, that part feels really like not hyper aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be? Could I phrase it like the quality of the intention remained the same while the push stress dissipated?
Perhaps.
Not quite.
Definitely the second part, like the push stress dulled. I guess that is a good way of putting it, because the intention was still there to do things, but the response to the intention was a little bit different. It was a little bit less hard.
But if I don't know, because you described it being as not super hyper aware, but if you remember the intention without body location changing quality at any point.
No, not really. I don't remember the intention shifting.
And is it that it didn't shift, or you don't remember? Sorry, just to be clear.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally. And then yeah, that I mean, I feel like, so okay, I'm at two thoughts, and one is like getting a little bit back to the transition back to less ill feeling. And then also, if there's anything that you can say more in memory of, and this is like, I feel like you're saying so much more than I can say myself in doing a really similar meditative improvised movement. It's pretty incredible to me. But if you can remember any more about what, like, any located or unlocated, vague anything that decided what was happening next, or like that made the next thing happen.
Well, we were in a room together also, right? And so I think some things that I chose to do were influenced by like what I noticed other people doing. It's like, oh yeah, that person's breathing hard. Maybe I should try that. Or like kicking in the air. Okay, might as well try that. Just, being receptive to other people's creative modes.
Totally. Okay.
Yeah.
That, and then, yeah, I guess the last thing, the moment of transition away from the ill, and it doesn't have to be in relation to like what the class directive was, but in your own feeling, like when did it shift from, like, when were shifts that you feel like you want to talk about?
Uh-huh. It so for me it was before the class directive. Um, with the movement, with moving and feeling some space from the like bodily reaction to the hard thing, like noticing that like the place of ill ease wasn't I wasn't feeling it as strongly as initially as when I'd like invited it in and it felt bad essentially in chest and core. Like a certain point of movement and just feeling like it just I wasn't like in the grips of the thing as much, and in that space like consciously like breathed into the body again, like breathed into the chest, like straightened my spine and held myself, did the things from the beginning, you know, like posturally noticing that I wanted to feel like strong and upright and chest open, and like brought hands back to the safe places, you know. But it was from a place of like already noticing that like some level of ease had been restored less consciously,
Mm-hmm.
or like some space from the thing was already there,
Yeah.
and then actively bringing back the like the safe well things from the beginning.
Do you notice if there's a difference between coming back to this space from the ill, um, from what I remember you saying, you had described that perhaps the intensity of the ill was less because your awareness was not totally focused on it, and also there was this intent happening to move. Do you have any I guess my basic question is, how, like, is there any discernment between what brought about, and if both, how differently or the same relief in relation to the movement versus the diffuse awareness? Or diffused awareness?
What?
Totally. Okay, so like what I'm wondering is like if you're I'm like, okay, if your task was to feel the sensations of this difficult moment in memory, and so you were feeling that, and then what if I said, instead of and now move, now do this algebra problem, which is also moving,
Right.
but in a different way. How, if I gave you a different directed task versus now do whatever as your directed task versus a specific thing, was it just like, was the relief because you just weren't paying as close attention, or because there was something in what you were doing, or both? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I feel like the relief was primarily because there was less attention on the thing.
Yeah.
I feel like there might be some relief through movement, through like actually like shaking, and you know that if in feeling unease, like your body, like there's, I don't know, I feel like there must be like tightness in your body and stuff. So moving in some way, like shaking, and I feel like there's some relief, but it's through movement, but it was primarily distraction.
Mm-hmm.
That was helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doing something else, yeah, that'd be curious if an arithmetic problem would do the same thing or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking of like another still activity, or you could be in the same exact shape, and now your activity, in the same way that, like we do the pendulation between like just feel the difficult spot and now just feel a neutral spot or a good feeling spot.
Right.
Um,
I guess I wonder if it was not an embodied, not a physical activity, if there'd be a difference in the ability to task shift
uh-huh.
as easily.
Yeah.
Like, would you be doing the math problem, feeling the hard thing super hard?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and then that's a really interesting open question to me to figure out how to, in continuing this experiment, how to lead in relation to addressing that as a question, as like, okay, I need to be a little more nuanced about how to get to this question, in experiment. And then one piece that you did say that I do feel like speaks particularly to movement, is the shift that you felt when you changed your physical position, intentionally going back to the place that you remembered that felt good before.
That was an empowering thing to do.
Yeah.
Know that you can remember it and you can go back there.
Uh-huh. And then I guess, so then maybe just looking at that for a second, if I'm correct in saying this, there was an intent to go back there, of, okay, now I'm going to try to refine this physical position that felt good before. In that moment, and then to the moment of arriving there, and then how it felt to arrive there, can you describe, if you have a memory of the sensation of that?
Well, it was, the intention became like the not focused awareness that feels just like a memory of a lot of movement with like some distinct memory, but became like the body became refocused, and awareness of the breath. Yeah, like I can perceive my chest and back and arms, and like walking, like I could perceive what I was doing distinctly again. Like it was a reapplication of embodied awareness. What did that feel like? Like there was intention, right? There was energy, but there wasn't stress. It wasn't hard to invite, to make the, like, I don't know. It was a shift back into awareness and directed movement.
Yeah. Like you were going to a shape. Yeah.
I'm trying to find the shape again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus going into unknown shapes.
Yeah.
And in that, when you How did you know you arrived at the shape that you were seeking?
I don't know if it was exactly the same shape.
Uh-huh.
I know that it was the pieces or the components of the earlier shape.
Mm-hmm.
There was an attempt to replicate those.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was awareness of arriving.
Or maybe to say it in a different way, when did it feel good?
I'd say it felt there was awareness of feeling some level of good just prior to intentionally welcoming the good.
Mm-hmm.
That it had already been there, but it wasn't like there wasn't full cognizance. There was like a already some feeling of ease before, and then the invitation. Then I invited it back, and yeah, became more aware of the body, but also then became more aware of other people.
In that moment, right before you invited it back, do you have any memory? Like, could you describe that moment at all? Like, it sounds similar to the thing coming, you know, of like the. Yeah.
It was like the moment of noticing space from the thing, but like not feeling in the grips of the hard thing, but not highly bounded, that like bodily awareness was diffuse. It wasn't like feeling the body specifically in any particular way.
Uh-huh. So, in this moment, so there was like diffuse awareness and there was movement happening. This is like going back to the moment when you were in the directive to move.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this like trying out of things and being, as I would describe, cognizantly inspired by others, seeing others do things. And then there was an intentional move to shift back to a known form. And there was a feeling of relief even before the clear intention to go there happened. And so before, as I understood when you were talking about being in the diffuse moving space, that there was already space between you and the discomfort of the itching or irritating. And so then when I heard you just describe the pre-intention to arrive at the known shape, that I heard you describe this space again. Was that space different than it had been as you described it already happening?
Mm-mm. No, I'd say it's a similar quality of distance or space from something triggering.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And then somehow, but unknown, there was an awareness of some more ease, and then a more cognizant intention to return to a former shape had happened.
Right, yeah, because like initially when inviting the hard thing in, it was like it had a place, right? It was like it felt uncomfortable in the core, and that after moving and distracting and doing, like, it wasn't that sensation wasn't there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It had moved, it had dissipated, and so noticing that it was no longer there was like a moment of ease already. noticing that attention was like no longer like, you weren't just like stuck in this thing, that you were just kind of, felt there was relief in that noticing.
And then, was that the moment that then, like, the next moment was the intention?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Or I follow. And then when you did arrive to that form, or to a similar form, did the sensation shift again, or did it remain the same as the moment right before? Like, there was the ease and then the intention, and then you shifted form. And
shifted form and shifted into being aware of the body.
Okay.
Like distinctly, like
Uh-huh.
like in the movement place, like there wasn't distinct awareness of the body. There was moments, but it wasn't. But like I very much perceive it as like a re-embodying.
Yeah.
Like being aware that you're walking around in this container, that you can shift, that you can change how you feel by the way you carry yourself in it.
Uh-huh.
Not mindlessly moving, somewhat mindlessly moving in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Attention became a lot more focused and like precise.
And
Yes.
and focused now, instead of on the sensations associated with an ill memory and ill sensations, but awareness back to
Trying to return to, or like foster that place of ease that remembered from before. But I also still feel like it's different returning to it, because there's still an awareness of the hard thing close. Right? So the quality of the attempted return, it's not as like simple or as like neutral or something as the original one.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is still close by, even though, like, lurking kind of, even though you're not feeling it fully, but it's still like having some influence on you in the return stage.
And then when you say this word, empowering, can you describe how that felt? Like, because it sounds like, if I understand correctly, it sounds like there was a moment that was like an awareness of empowerment.
I guess, like, comparatively, like, often it feels like when in the grips of hard emotions that like I'm just being carried by a current that is strong and forceful, and that like I have no ability to like control or fight or whatever, and that in your class, like, noticing that it was possible to generate, or like, feelings of well-being by subtle bodily shifts, namely in the spine and the chest and the shoulders. And it felt really empowering to be like, I can do little things to live in this body in a way that I feel like I have some control, and I'm not just being tossed around in the storm.
Yeah.
Like, it felt really new.